Om Vasudeva Shutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnan Vande Jagadguru. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Our salutation to Bhagavan Krishna, the destroyer of Kamsa and Chanura, the darling of Mother Jasoda, and the Guru of the world, and our salutations to him again and again. So today we are starting a very spiritual text of Hindu tradition. It is called the Srimad Bhagavatam. It is a really difficult task that I thought that I will study for my own purpose. It is such a text. It has about 18,000 verses, and to read it, it takes whole life to read such a profound spiritual ideals where all the blending of the non-dual absolute truth to the dualistic idea, to the idea of the Puranas, qualified non-dualism, all the philosophies have been blended in such a way, and ultimately it leads to the freedom and devotion. This text, spiritual text, is a classic text in Hindu religion and literature. It is actually Purana. It falls under the category of Purana. Purana means the narrative of ancient times. Narrative of ancient times. And through Puranic literature, though Puranic literature takes its present shape only from the 5th century, but the nucleus form which it developed existed much earlier and was as old as the Vedic Samhitas. So it is as long as the Atharva Veda time. So it is, however, to be noted that only the Purana is used in these references. There are so many Puranas, and it is called, it is Purana Samhita. It is separate from the Vedas. In the early days, the recital of the Purana and the sacrificial rites must have been the function of the Brahman priests. But as time went on, it gradually came to relegate to a mixed caste class, the Suta. Suta means India was divided in so many small countries, states, and there are kings. And the Sutas were some class of people who have incredible memory. They would, anything recited, anything said, they could memorize it spontaneously. The Sutta this was written, told by Sutta in a congregation. Earlier days, actually the story goes that there was a king, Parikshit, by name, Sri Krishna's grandson. Sri Krishna's grandson. And he was cursed by a Brahmin rishi, son, that you will die in 7 days because by a snake bite, because you insulted my father with a snake putting in the neck, dead snake putting in the neck. The story goes that King Parikshit went to the forest, as was the custom of the time, and went on hunting deer. That was a pastime of the kings. And he felt so exhausted and tired and thirsty in his own kingdom. So he could not find any drinking water. So ultimately saw a house of a hermitage and seeing that, okay, I may get some water. So went there and found that there was a house and a person sitting in meditation. In those days, wonderful country, spiritual country. And he went and begged. When he being the king of the country, he begged, Sir, I am very thirsty. Could you please give me a glass of water? But the man, the gentleman, is a sage. But he could not listen. He is so steeped into meditation, didn't hear anything. And then, as he didn't hear, so he requested second time and third time. But king was totally disturbed. But how much meditation you are doing? You don't listen to so much request, earnest request for a glass of water. And he thought he is feigning, he's making a show of meditation. So he found a dead snake somewhere, and with his arrow, he picked it up and put like a garland, like a Shiva. Okay, now you do your meditation like a Shiva. And he left. And his son went on to neighboring place maybe. And he come and found his father's neck. There is a dead snake. What happened? And by that time, the father also woke up with so much noise and saw. And his son was so angry. Who did it to my father? He will die within 7 days. He will die within 7 days with the snake bite. Same snake will bite. And the father was really upset. And when he said, it's my fault. The king of the country like Parikshit came, such a holy man, descendant in the family of the Krishna, such a good king. And he is being cursed. He should not do that. Please withdraw your curse. It will be detrimental for the whole country. But the son is arrogant. He said, my father is insulted. I will not tolerate this. Anyhow, in those days, they had voice. There's whatever comes out of the mouth of a such family of truthfulness and honesty, that becomes true. And anyhow, this thing happened here, and the king went back, and by words of mouth, he came to know that he has been cursed, that he will be bitten by a snake within 7 days. Only 7 days life is there. But he did not get angry with this boy, or he didn't make any effort to protect himself. Oh, what? For a king to protect from a snake? King's palace, whole army, room may be sealed. So many things are there. But he didn't take any other. He took a lesson out of it. Oh, I have only 7 days to live. So what shall I do now? Just someone tells me, you are only in the world for 7 days. What will happen? So then you think that, okay, let me do this job and talk to this person, go for this thing, have a fun in the movie, and go and sing and dance somewhere and have some good feast. Will you do like that? Or you say, I have only 7 days, what to do now? And so he left his kingdom and gave responsibility of the country or his state to his son, and then took him, just relaxed from all responsibilities and went on a holy land. It is called Naimisharanya. That is a holy place where there are many sacrificial sacrificial uh, uh, worships have been done in that holy place by thousands and thousands through so many ages together. Brahmins perform. That means an auspicious place on the bank of Ganga. And then he started, yes, and whole community of sages and saints of the country followed that King Parikshit and went on, and because they lost such a fatherly king who is to take care of the whole community, so like a loving, caring father in all their troubles and tribulations, and he is now going away, what will happen? Then they followed and they settled in one place, and then when he was saying, all become very calm and quiet, and he asked that please tell me about something spiritual for this last few days. How shall I pass these few days? So suddenly they found that one young boy, his name is Shukadeva. Shukadeva is the son of Vyasa, Bhagavan Vyasa, who composed the what we call the Brahma Sutras, who organized the whole the Vedas we get now, Rig Veda, Sama Veda, Yajur Veda, Atharva Veda, and Mahabharatam. Huge spiritual text. His son, and he had it. He has his full knowledge. He was born with full knowledge. So when he suddenly started walking through that, and seeing that the whole assemblage of the holy people stood up, including the King Parikshit, and honored him and respected him, and then said that, oh, you are here, what a great fortune. So please tell me something. I have only 7 days to live in the world. Please tell me the story of Bhagavan Krishna, the Lord, who came down as a human being for the good of humanity. I want to spend these 7 days in the memoir of Sri Krishna Bhagavan Krishna, and spend my all day and night in the thought of that to purify myself. So please tell. And then he started putting questions. Parikshit is putting question, the king Parikshit, and response is given by the Shukadeva. And this continued day and night, and 7 days came. And at the end of 7 days, the entire book, this whatever we are reading, we plan to read. I do not know whether I'll be able to finish before my death. But anyhow, it is just to read out those, but reading we can do. So, but if you take one verse, such a grand verse, it may take one class. But anyhow, it is better to know the greatness of this spiritual text. Then, at the end of the 7th day, the Sukadev said, okay, now I have responded to all your questions, and I have narrated this story, life and teachings of Bhagavan Krishna. Have you any other further question? Then he said, no, I have no more question. And I have no more fear of death. Death is knocking at my door. 7 days is gone. 6 days is gone, only remaining. 5 days, 4 days, 3 days, 2 days, 1 day, tomorrow. No? But I'm ready. I'm not fearful about death. That is this scripture can give. Conquering death. That is the lesson here. How to conquer death. How to conquer fear. how to conquer our all weaknesses. Because it was told by what? Shukadeva, and who is the learner? The king Parikshit, who has renounced everything to know this truth. See the context. On one side, student is fully renunciate. Who can renounce? Who can be a greater renunciate than that of King Parikshit? He was the king of India. And he has left it like straw. There's no value. To know the truth. Before I die, I must have to know the truth. Student is such high class student and eager to know the truth and have the capacity to renounce everything in life like meaningless, worthless objects. And the teacher is a renunciate. He's a monk. He's from birth. He has the full knowledge of Brahman. And he's roaming around free from all worries, anxieties, and living in the life of freedom and that joy or bliss of God's realization. So that's why this was the first very much studied by the sadhus, monks, because it is talking about the highest renunciation, talking about the highest wisdom. And then in time, the devotees, it came into the householder people also started reading those and listening to that. And then it became more popular as a text bhakti book. That's why in the AC Bhakti Vedanta or Hare Krishna temple, they emphasize this book. And in India also, it is very much respected. It is considered as the highest text about bhakti school of thought. But it is, if you go to deep depth, it's full of its very first beginning is Brahman. You will find that if we continue to read and pay attention, it's talking about even the Vyasa who composed his fast. He said he took a big apology to God, Narayana, Krishna, that you are infinite, you are worthless, you are beyond time and space, and I forgive me my mistakes, my writing this book in this way. Why? Because I have infinite, you are infinite. I have made you as if you are a finite. You are beyond time. I have put you in the time frame. So this is I limited you. The unlimited, absolute. You are, I have limited you. So please forgive by this transgression. This is that's why it is to be considered a great study of Vedanta in all its aspects. Now the story should have some relation with it. How then the Sukadev told this, and how do we get it now? So when at the end of discourse, when Maharaj Parikshit looked at Shukadeva, Shukadeva said, I'm leaving now, because he does not want to see the last part of the snake bite and death, etc. So he said, okay, have you any other question? Well, he said, no, I have no more question. I have conquered the death. I know the truth now. And then Shukadev was leaving the place. And then other sages and saints, they were so much overwhelmed so long listening to this conversation and the advice of Shukadeva. They came to sense, hey, such a treasure of knowledge will go in vain, who no one has recorded. No one has taken note of it. What will happen? Then they requested Shukadeva. Then what will happen? Such a grand spiritual knowledge, it will be all lost. Then Shukadeva looked in the congregation and found there is one Sutta. Sutta means, I have told you before, Sutta means a class of people, narrator, who have incredible memory, and they can, like photographic memory, they can reproduce the thing as they have heard, as they have seen, like that. So there is one Sutta in that category, and he is being a knower of truth. Looking at that, he said, he that person will remain, that person will recollect everything what I have said, and that in that way it will be preserved. And then what happened? When they left, and Parikshit, the snake came and died, and his light body became effulgent and emerged into the cosmic consciousness. That's the description. Now this Sutta, he went from place to place and he used to narrate, and he and his tradition came down, but he used to narrate this Krishna story in this Bhagavat, what we are reading, what we'll be reading, and people at the special occasions. India was that wonderful country. Any occasion comes, they will have some spiritual festivity. There, these were reading. They used to call these suttas to listen about God and God's glories. And this is the way that suttas, from that mouth of the suttas, and gradually it became a tradition, and then sometime it was written down. And historicity is, they say, is a long range where it was only shruti, only hearing. And then in some period of time it came into a text. And that's the why we get this from the sutta. That's why when you read here, you will find sometimes Sutta is talking. Sutta is a narrator. He has nothing to do with this. As like a Sanjaya in the Bhagavad Gita. Sanjaya is a just observer. Like in your football game, someone is the narrator. Narrator only narrates what is going on, this and that. So these suttas are narrators, but they have had their inner memory so sharp, they can, from their mind, they can, whatever they have heard, in truth, they could reproduce it. So this is the story that we get to this text, spiritual text, and that is Srimad Bhagavatam. So Maha Puranas, there are many Maha Puranas in ancient and comprehensive, distinguished therefrom. There are 18 in numbers, 18 Purana, Maha Puranas. They are named like Brahma, uh, Padma Purana, Vishnu Purana, Vayu Purana, Bhagavat Purana, Naradiya Purana, Markandeya Purana, like this, all these names were there. We need not have to know that much. Mahapuranas can be described as major Puranas. And also there are Upa Puranas. Their contrast to it be described as subsidiary Puranas. So these are the way many Puranas, principal features and contents of Purana, all the Puranas, with exception of a few, are more or less sectarian in nature, exalting as they do someone or another, the cult gods like Vishnu, Shiva, Shakti. That means they are, why? They are very much focused in bhakti. Bhakti become a little sectarian. Why? We are the only sect we uh, following Vishnu. Vishnu's follower Vishnu. They will say Vishnu is highest. Someone is Shiva. The Shiva Purana. Shiva Purana is glorified. Shiva is the ultimate God. And then Shakti or Shiva or Shakti Purana. So this exaltation of one aspect of the deity and subordination of the others to it is often wrongly interpreted to mean narrow sectarian rivalry among these cults by people who don't understand the genuineness of this Vedic religion. Uh, the scripts are not to my I love Vishnu. Does not mean that your Shiva is to be belittled. But in dualism it happens. My path is the highest path. And that goes to extreme. World religions look at that. My religion is the highest religion. Other religions must be low. Other religions must be subdued. So this type of sectarian idea comes, but they don't understand the Vedic culture. Vedic culture is that, oh, what Ramakrishna said, and it is there. You will find this when you read this. Here, Jnana, Karma, Yoga, Bhakti are all equally responded. Some places to it. Tasa is always in our lecture also, we do know. When you are specifically giving a talk on bhakti, what do you say? To create the impression that those people who are listening or who are practicing, they will be encouraged to say bhakti is good, better. Huh? That does not mean that you have to pull down the greatness of other paths. So that is the weakness of sectarianism. So it says the place of the Bhagavat among the Puranas is exactly what exactly is the place of Bhagavata Purana in this vast body of the religious literature. It will be noted that it is included in the traditional list 18 Maha Puranas, but this has been questioned by Devi Bhagavat, which claims that Bhagavata Mahapurana, thus relegating the Vishnu Bhagavata to the position of the Upapurana. Some say it is not that, this is Upapurana. But anyhow, they don't go into, don't have to spend time for all this. And the date of Bhagavata also, the date and personal present textual form of Bhagavata, modern scholarship is not yet in a position to give a firm answer. In no uh, spiritual text of Indian tradition, you can find a date, which day. Because Indian tradition is not based on date, on the truth. People are overwhelmed. Eh, When it, what is the essential teaching? Not which day, who, what place, because they are not so much history minded. Anyhow, uh, so this has a great position in the among all the Puranas. Sri Krishna and the Bhagavata, his dominance in it. Main thesis of Bhagavat is to inculcate the glory and the greatness of Bhagavan Sri Krishna and the necessity of cultivation of devotion to him. The rest of the subject matter include the accounts of other incarnation is made subordinate to it. It is an accepted principle of interpretation that the subject matter of a book will be reflected in its introduction and conclusion. So, just from this point of view, the whole of these skandhas of the Bhagavata deals with Sri Krishna and the bestowal of his grace on the Pandavas, and the three concluding skandhas deal directly with him, his teachings, and the time that followed. So the question of the rishis of Naimisharana, just I referred to that, what question they put, in answer to which Shuta gave out this Bhagavata, is most exclusively related to Krishna. They ask, "O Shuta, tell us what was the purpose for which the Bhagavan was born in Devaki as the son of Vasudeva. Tell us who are endowed with spiritual zeal about his noble and sportive activities, of which sages have sung. Tell us about the incidents of the incarnation of Hari, wherein he manifested a sportive nature through his own mysterious power. We are never satisfied with hearing the glories of activities of the Lord, the descriptions of which appear so sweet to true connoisseur at the every stage. So these are the questions have been put by the rishis. And the consequence of this advice, these are the questions. And as a result of its response, the advice was the production of the Bhagavat. Actually, the Shuka responded to all these questions. One page question is there. I'm not reading now. That will take time. So just to get a glimpse, all types of questions about Krishna, Krishna's birth, Krishna's superhuman activity, why he was incarnated, all these questions are put and the response was given in the form. And the consequence of this advice was the production of the Bhagavatam, which describes itself. What? In other words, the Supreme Lord Hari, who destroys all the evils of the Iron Age of Kali Yuga, has not been praised in all their parts, but in the narrative of Bhagavata, Bhagavan has been glorified in every word of it. So Krishna's glory has been mostly talked about, but philosophical outlook of Bhagavat, the impression that non-sectarian leaders would have and the outlook of the Bhagavata on metaphysics is that it is not exclusively committed to any single system. These are the sectarian idea. But you read the Bhagavata in a dispassionate way, then he says, this is the philosophical outlook. If you read that, we will read that from that perspective. We have Vedanta perspective, where we don't twist the text by mentioning it, which is Vedantic, to make it devotional. Of course, Vedanta also talk about Krishna, the impersonal. Krishna the impersonal, Krishna the personal. For us, it is no problem. But for dualists, they say Krishna is the only personal. And he is God himself. And there is no other God. And other gods are little gods, smaller gods. They are lesser. Or lesser. Always compare. That is the human weakness. My guru is the greatest guru. Other gurus are there, but my is the highest. So this is the all weakness of human mind. But essentially everything is permeated by Brahman, Atman, God. God is only one. And even it says Vasudevi, Idam, Sarvam, Vasudeva, he is everywhere. If you say everywhere and someone says Christ is everywhere, so what is the problem? If one says Ramakrishna is everywhere, what is the problem? Because of the name, you should go and fight. You're Ramakrishna, if you say everywhere, then name is no importance. You call Rama, you call Allah, you call Krishna, you call God, what it matters. That's why Sri Ramakrishna's life is very, very important, and we can find some how it matches, that spiritual ideal is matches here. And the problems of modern readers arising from the Puranic outlook. If they look at the Puranic outlook, problem will be dissension, differentiation, fight. But Ramakrishna said, don't fight. No, don't argue. Go and eat the mangoes in the mango grove. Don't spend your time by fighting with others. It's bhakti. Okay, enjoy your bhakti. It's jnana. Enjoy your jnana. That's all. And jnana and bhakti will lead you the same Satchidananda. Bhakti is ananda. And jnana is what? Satchidananda. So what is the difference? So, you see, these are the only introduction. So I am not reading it. Only one line, two lines. How idea of evolution in the tradition of Purana started.
Parikshit was Arjuna's grandkid.
Huh?
Parikshit was Arjuna's
grandson. Arjuna, that's right. Yes, true. You corrected me. That is the problem. So all these name things, we are so. Now, Here we find that one similar story we can find that Master Mahasai, M, the chronicler, what he did, he was also tormented in life's problem. He was coming to commit suicide even because family trouble was so much. Uh, with the wife and the family in living in which side to go. He was so tormented. He was escaping from the life's situation and going to commit suicide. That was his plan. But his wife said, "Why are you going? I will go. I'll also go with you." then, then he said, "No, no, no. I'm going to my sister's." Well, okay, I'll also go with you. He knew that his mind is so much depressed. So he followed, and that story goes that he once started from home and he came. It's not far away. He hired in it is the horse-driven carriage were available those days. So he rented a horse-driven carriage, but it came to some bazaar near the that place where Holy Mother's house is now close by. So it came and one of the wheel broke. So and so what he will do? And then nowadays so many people are there in the evening time, but those days it is Calcutta was not thickly populated like that. So he remembered what to go with my wife now. So he thought that he would go to the house of his one friend. He remembered that in that where it descended from the broken carriage, and will go to their home. And he knocked at their door. But even the friends, who will be the friend in odd hours. So he said that, "Can you stay over here?" Well, then, no, no, no. Then can you give us your horse carriage or something? And they actually that question was put, but they could not stay there. That much was final. So they found how to come out, and but anyhow they got to another carriage, and they came to a place very close to Dakshineshwar, where Am's sister lived. So he came, and they are surprised at odd hours to this. They have come. Okay, then they stayed, but this nephew of M, he anyhow got fascinated with M and he became a companion of M. Next morning, he wanted to go to some place. Well, he's always following him. His wife was there. Now, wife left, but his nephew followed him and he went here. And he said, "Oh, will you go to a place? Here is a Paramahamsa, Dakshineshwar." And that is the way Sidhu was the name of that nephew. He actually came to, he took him to the destination and first met Ramakrishna there in a very beautiful way. The description in the gospel, and there he describes that as if it is in Naimisharanya, no? Because he read this Bhagavat, to his mind, he recollected as if, and Ramakrishna speaking like Shukadeva, ever free soul. And so many devotees are listening with rapt attention about uh, as if Shukadeva is speaking before the uh, audience. No, so that type of environment was parallel because Ramakrishna's gospel is also same, and it saved his life. That's why he conquered death in that sense. His he felt so much attracted. He came second day like that, and the description goes in the gospel. You can find it. So you find that it is M's mind recollected the story of the Naimisharanya story, how his life, which was he thought useless to just to kill himself, took a turn, and gave him the touch of immortality. So that's a very beautiful thing. And the teachings of Ramakrishna, you can find the similar. If we read this book, we can sometimes think of the similarity of the lessons. Because the same person, no? Same person, he says, he who was Rama, he who was Krishna, he is Ramakrishna in this age. So that was the same divine entity for the good of humanity comes again and again. It is what I said here, the Srimad Bhagavatam Maha Purana, the prologue. It says, I better to read this prologue, it is 2 pages. It says, the first skanda which we'll read, the book of Bhagavata, is by way of an introduction, describing how the Bhagavata came to be produced and made popular. The occasion is also taken to introduce the subject of the Krishna's greatness, which is the main topic of the Purana. The scene is laid in the Naimisharanya, where a long drawn fire sacrifices, that is called Satra, is being performed by some rishis who, during the period of their recess from ritualistic duties, put their questions to Suta Roma Harsan, this name of the gentleman from whom we get this Bhagavat. That Suta, that recollector of the memory, was his name is Roma Harsan. Roma Harsan means what? Whose hairs stand on joy, erect with joy, talking about God. Roma Harsan. His name was Roma Harsan, on devotional things. They especially want to know how man is to sustain his spiritual life after Krishna's departure from the world and the setting in of the evil age of Kali. In reply, the sutta expatiates on the glory of Bhagavata Dharma. What is Bhagavad Dharma? The life of devotion dedicated to the Lord, which could be cultivated through the study of the practice of the teachings of Bhagavad. This Kali Yuga, we are in the middle of it started with the death of Krishna. Kali Yuga started with the death of Krishna. Decline. And we are in the middle of the extreme decline. No? God knows how far down it can go. The life of devotion to the Lord, which could be cultivated through study and practice of these teachings of Bhagavata, describe the glory of Krishna. Krishna lives in the Bhagavata, which records his achievements and teaching. It is then stated by the Sutta that he learned this Bhagavata when it was taught to Raja Parikshita, the king Parikshit, at his deathbed. This Sutta was present when Shukadeva was talking by Sri Shukadeva, who in turn had learned it from his father Vyasa. Shukadeva learned from whom? His father Vyasadeva, who was himself the author of the Purana. So he composed it. Composed means in brain. That's why in India so much of chanting and repetition was there, because there was no books. Everything you have to memorize. That's why you find so many aphorisms. Why aphorism? Yoga aphorism. Brahma Sutras. Why sutras? Sutras means aphorism. Because to memorize, for ordinary people, they cannot keep the whole book. But in short, abridged, codified language, you can memorize one after another, and then going through that, you can understand the whole book. Book in your brain. All the text in your brain. That's why Guru Mukhi Vidya. That's why Indian tradition is that you have to go to a teacher. You cannot learn without that. So that because there is no book at all. And also they were people who saturated themselves with these noble thoughts. See, book is there. We don't learn deeply, isn't it? Because you are not having any book. Huh? Why? Someone is telling, it can be available, it can be on the YouTube. I will listen later on. So nothing, not serious to take it now. I have to take it in. Otherwise, I'll forget. I'll lose it forever. No? So these are the greatness of the ancient time teaching. They have to immediately work with full attention. Otherwise, they miss it. The teacher is not going to teach you the lesson teaching earlier days, teaching today again. And then when the book will be finished, this 18,000 verses, if someone wants to say, so when it will be finished? So you will have to have too much attention, and that's why tradition came from Guru Miki. And then if the Guru makes a mistake, then you will learn wrongly. So see, he should be responsible then. He should have wonderful memory, and also to be just exacting the ideas. So that was the uh, Raja Parikshit. Then he came from Vyasa, and who was himself the author. A detailed account is given in the circumstances leading to Vyasa composing the Bhagavat. There is another account. How Vyasa composed this. That is another story. Vyasa has, so let me see. And in that account is also included highly devotional previous history of the sage. That what was that? Let me quickly say that. One day Vyasa was meditating on the bank of the river. As you hear now, the name of the bank is Ganga, Ganges. Huh? Ganga, Narmada, still now they are flowing, but they are drying up. Now, it is said that there was another river. It is called Saraswati River. And the Vyasadeva was sitting in the meditation on the bank of the Saraswati River, steeped in meditation. But his mind was restless, not getting peace. And then the Narada says, Narada appeared before Vyasa. And he said, see, I am not getting peace in my mind. Then Narada advised, yes, true. You have uh, divided the Vedas into 4 Vedas, organized them. You have written the Brahma Sutras, but you have not meditated on the sweetness of God when He incarnates. You think about that and you write that, compose those things, then you will find peace. So then he started composing this Bhagavat. So it says that a detailed account is then given of the circumstances leading to Vyasa's composing the Bhagavatam. In that account, it is also included the highly devotional previous history of the sage Narada. Questions are then raised as to why the text was taught to Parikshit at his deathbed by Shuka. And this leads to the narration of several episodes after Mahabharata war, Ashwatthama's murderous attack on the children of the Pandavas, their relationship, etc. etc. A brief but highly vivid and devotional account of the impacts made by Sri Krishna and the Pandavas on their subjects and relatives in is then given, followed by the moving description of the exit from the world. Krishna's exit marks the beginning of the age of Kali, with which the pious Parikshit, the grandson of Pandavas, had to come into confrontation. The region of Parikshit is then described, especially how he checkmated the degeneration of the age of Kali was bringing in. Next, the indiscreet act of Parikshit, which brought on him Rishi's curse to die the bite of serpent, Takshaka, within a short time is described. So this is followed by the scene of Parikshit, observing the vows of starvation as a preservation to face death. At this point, the sage arrives at the spot by chance, and King Parikshit asks him to explain what would lead to the spiritual good of man threatened by the imminent death like himself. In reply, Shuka offers to narrate to him this Bhagavata, which leads very quickly to man's spiritual emancipation. In all these narratives, utmost care is taken to show the spiritual glory of Sri Krishna and to inculcate devotion to him, so that we human beings we take refuge at the feet of the Lord when death comes, suffering comes. So this is the inspiration to give. uh, it is highly poetic and devotional and forms one of the most sublime sections of the text. Though it is introductory in form, it is the final section added to the complete narration of Krishna's life and glory, and it may be that it was the last section to come in the development of Bhagavat literature too. The famous line, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, is significant in this respect, whereas in all other places, Krishna is spoken of as a kalo or angsho or part, kola or angsho or part. Here he is posited as Purna avatar, complete incarnation, in a category different from other incarnations. It marks the stage when Krishna cult had dominated Vaishnavism, and the whole chapter might have been inspired by this mood of Vaishnavas at an advanced stage of development. So they are talking about whatever is now, we'll read the Bhagavatam. So we cannot read anything more, but we will only read the first verse to start. At least we have started. Srimad Bhagavatam, Prathama Skandha means it is chapter. Skandha is a whole volume. It has its chapter, and the chapter has its verse number. Each chapter has several. So when you read Bhagavat, you will find 1.10.3, meaning the Skanda book is one, in its chapter one, and verse number is this. So every chapter changes and the verse number changes. That is the way the book is described. So 1, 2, 3, like the books will be like that. Prathama Skanda, this is the first Skanda, one book. This chapter is 1 and verse number is 1. Oh my God. Janmadhyasya jata. Janmadhyasya jato annayaditarasya arthesu abhigaswarat tene brahma hridaya adi kavayo michanti yat suraya tejo bhari midang yatha minimayo yatrati sargom risha dhamna sena sada nirasta kuhakam satyam parang dhimahi. But he says, Janmadiyasya jataha. This world, Asya means this world, universe, it's the origin, where it from origin. Adi means where it came from, where it sustains, where it dissolves. That means it is coming from that supreme Brahman. Janmadhyasya, from where it comes, and itavat, and also all these objects in the universe which is fine, we find like the ghata and pata. Ghata means pitcher, pata means cloth, canvas. And also, these are all akasha kusum. It is like fantasy of the mind. There is no such thing. The world you see, akarje asatruvidahupal, it is seen, it is you experience it because of your bad karma. Your mind is deluded. Just sarvagga. But that Lord who is Sarvagya, the knower of everything, Sarvasaktiman, all powerful, and that truth which has been described in the Vedas and by whose Maya even the Brahma, Vishnu, they also get deluded. He who, that same Veda, the wisdom, who has brought in the heart of Brahma and created from his mind, I salute that Parameshwar. I salute that Supreme Lord. See, the very first verse is talking about what? Unique blending of the non-dual and the dual. eh? Nameless and the name. Here the translation I read, I have translated that way, but let us read this. This is the book you can refer to, Swami Tapasyananda. It is called Srimad Bhagavatam by Swami Tapasyananda. It has 4 volumes like this, but only first volume we are concerned. Right? So the first verse I am reading. So his translation we read, he from whom the creation, sustenance, and dissolution of the universe take place, who is both material and instrumental cause of it. See, who is the material cause and instrumental cause? What does it mean? This matter, it is also he. Instrumental cause, the carpenter who created, he is also he. The name and form, whatever you see, it is he only. Who is omniscient? That Krishna we are talking about. That Paramatma we are talking about. Who permeates everything, everywhere is he. Who is the only one having self-mastery in the world. Only God is the only have self-mastery. We have no control over ourselves. But God has created this universe by his own power. It is his being the one independent entity. He is only independent, all are dependent on that. Brahman is the independent entity, everything is dependent on that. Who illumined the mind of Brahma even with the Vedic revelation. Huh? In the Brahma's heart, the knowledge of Vedas came. Who conferred? It is he. He means that it's not a person, but that God who appeared as, he is talking about this Krishna, the Absolute, by whose will everything happened. Vedic relation of wisdom entered Vedic revelation, whose wisdom is the wonder of even the greatest of the sages, in whom the worlds and the manifestations of the 3 gunas subsist in reality without in the least afflicting him. The 3 gunas rest on Brahman, on him, Krishna. Krishna is carrying 3 gunas, but he is not affected by the gunas. You can say Krishna, you can say Brahman. But so subsist in reality without the least affecting. Just as the combination of the material elements like fire, water, earth, etc., subsist in their cause without changing their elemental nature. No? This earth element goes back to his earth substance. No? This element, gross thing, goes back to the subtle. Like that in your dream, what you see, this material earth, not there, but you see some earth there also. There you also see water also. You can see ocean in the dream. But that water is made of the essence of this water. So he is the support of that
Is it the same like
without changing their elemental nature, in whose light of consciousness there is no place for anything false. On that truth supreme we meditate. Now you think the very first verse of Bhagavat is very enigmatic in its meaning. Many of the cardinal words in it are vague in their import, capable of diverse interpretation. So all the commentators have interpreted the verse in the way It suits the metaphysics of their school. You are a Vedanta, you can pull in Vedanta. You are a dualist, you can put all this meaning in a dualistic way. You are a qualified non-dualist. Yes, he has become everything. He's a part, and he is the whole. You can do that. Whether monistic, dualistic, or positions made between these extremes, it looks that the author of the Bhagavata has introduced the vagueness purposely. For from examination of the text as a whole, one will find that he has no objection to any metaphysics. You can look at Krishna from the perspective of infinite Satchidananda. You can look at him, the creator God. You can think that he has become everything. You can think that he has become, that's why we say, world, religion, you can analyze, you will find that these are the common ground. Brahman, the absolute, Nirguna, Nirvishesa. Brahman with quality, that's called Ishvara. Saguna, Nirakara. Then you come to gods and goddesses. Then you come to avatar. Then you come to holy people and gurus. So you can explain from any stand you like this verse. For from the examination of the text as a whole, one will find that he has no objection. He means the Vyasu has no objection to any metaphysics, provided it supports and fosters devotion, which according to him is the culmination of life. That is the purpose of life. Okay. So we end here. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Okay.
The only one question is that can you tell what book is we need to purchase?
If you like to purchase, I think we will follow this book mainly. It is called the Srimad Bhagavata, translated by Swami Tapasyananda, published by Madras, probably. Let me see. Yeah, published by Ramakrishna Math, Chennai. You can available on our bookstore probably. You can write to on email. You can contact the department. It has 4 volumes. It will be good if you can collect one and keep with you and read at least. Go on reading. Need not have to understand everything. It's a vast knowledge. You, wherever it's comfortable, you read that area. And we'll also do like that. We cannot do justice to anything. The first verse, and we go on, already 5 minutes over. It will be every day, within class will extend to 2 hours. So we will have to restrain. So we'll read. And everything cannot be, our ultimate reading is the same. We read in all the Vedantic perspective, we will analyze this. Of course, Bhakti has its own place in life. And we Vedanta, one, welcome that. Vedanta does not mean it is dry. It will be sweet and softened in the sweetest love. That means Bhakti Jnana is to be softened, the sweetest love, syrup, God's syrup, love God, love God the impersonal, God the personal. Make it feel that it is everywhere, in every pore of your body. Then Vedanta study is okay. Then reading Bhagavat is okay, or learning meditation is okay. Otherwise, what? Talk. How many philosophy? What is this? Why you so much needed? Just you go to a teacher, get some instruction, follow that, forget the whole world. This is this. You go in the grove, mango grove, and go on. This mango is good. Where did it come from? It came from Fazli. It is a Alfonso. This is this. It has come from Mumbai. It has come from South. It has come from Mexico. Go on in the shopping place. Go on. Are Baba, take a mango and eat. That's a simple thing. Jai Ma. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.